Welcome to episode 358 of the show. When I first got introduced to sales theory, there was this idea that came up time and time again that I disagreed with. And the first time I actually heard it talked about by, I think, not Stephen Covey. What's the other guy? There's a gray haired guy, sales trainer, Brian Tracy. Yeah, so the first time that I heard about it was an idea that was expressed by Brian Tracy. And what he said in the Psychology of Selling, not in the book, but the audio series, was that people make buying decisions emotionally and not rationally. And his argument was that even if you find someone who insists that the person makes all decisions rationally, even buying decisions, it's because the person is emotionally attached to the idea of seeming like he or she is a rational creature. And the whole point of Brian Tracy's argument and other people who come at it from this angle is that if we're trying to make a purely rational calculus for why people buy the products or services that they use, or if they buy our products or services, if they go with us, that it's not going to be a purely rational calculus, that there's going to be emotion that is involved in the whole process. And so if you're a wedding and event professional, you're a wedding photographer, you're a videographer, or you're a planner, and you're trying to keep things really airtight and logical, assuming that people are going to look at the calculus and see that if they weigh features and benefits versus price and Lord knows what other rational considerations that they're looking at, if you assume that that's what people are going to do and there are not going to be any emotional considerations that go with it, you're going to be absolutely wrong. So we ought to know that, acknowledge that, affirm it, and work with it in trying to come up with our sales and our marketing plans, not just for those of us in the event and wedding space, but whatever business it is that you are involved in. So you can't just be all rational when you're coming up with your sales scripts or your marketing plans or your engagement schemes whenever you run some advertisements on social media or whatever. We have to embrace the fact that there's an emotional component and it's not all just science, that there's going to be an artistic component as well. So, in running our businesses, we can't all be Spock because the prevailing wisdom out there is still this idea that I've been touting over on the podcast for the last couple of weeks, the idea that people do business with those that they know, that they like, and that they trust. So let's not forget that the liking bit and the trusting bit are more emotional than logical per se, when we're going to look at it in a pure intellectual, rational calculus sort of way. So what does that mean for us when we are trying to promote our products and our services, especially for those in the wedding and the event space? We have to be looking out for the key emotions that are behind the buying decision and learn to cue into those effectively. So in traditional sales circles, there's going to be this idea that there is a vision that people are emotionally tied to that they are trying to achieve, or there is a negative outcome that the bride and the groom or potential customers are averse to in an emotional sense and that they're trying to avoid. And so the sooner that you can recognize that there's a positive emotion that they lean into and key into that, or there's something that they're running away from and see how you can forestall that from happening, then the better our chances are going to be able to close the sale. That's the reason why some of the qualification questions that we talk about in earlier episodes about what's your idea of a perfect wedding, when you say you want your wedding to be A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, what exactly do you mean? All these probing questions to get to the root of what it is, their perfect vision that they're aiming for. That's the reason why all these questions are important, because it's helping us get to the root, helping us get to the emotion of what it is that they are running towards or what it is that they are trying to run away from. And it's only when we have this key need identified, or the key thing that they're running away from identified, that we're going to be able to now use rationale and the other reasons to craft a convincing sales pitch or a convincing presentation, or to carry on a convincing conversation, or whatever it is that you like to call it. So that's pretty much what I've come to share today. So let's remember that there's a strong emotion behind the buying decision for our potential customers, our brides and grooms, or whatever business you're involved in, if you're an architect, there's a strong emotional reason behind why this particular client wants to build this house or wants to use a particular kind of design. So you're better off as a wedding planner or as an architect trying to get to the root of what this key emotion is, key into it, and then you're going to be able to use it to make a convincing presentation. So thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the show. I am your host, Abuja-based sales consultant and event media professional, Tavishima Ayede. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.